Hi everyone and welcome for this new tutorial how to paint Stormboyz for your Orc Wag. So it's a beginner tutorial, but you are going to use some airbrush and brush, and it's take me 45 minutes to do. So the first step is to push your highlights in Zenithal, so from the up, with your airbrush and directly with white color from Pro Color. I'm going to put this like that, but if you don't have any airbrush, you can always spray in black base coat and after spray with a white base coat, but directly from the up. So with the white directly from the up, you will have a Zenithal base coat. Now, if you don't want to make something complicated, don't hesitate to directly prime in white all your miniatures that work very well. You can see how many time it takes me. Remember, it's just a reference to give you some idea about how many time it takes me, but don't try necessarily to rush. That's just for you to know. Now I continue, and as you can see I focus with my white and I don't hesitate to make a second layer of white airbrush on some few parts, just to be sure this part will be very white, so the contrast color will be more efficient when I put it on my minis. Now I start by pushing my contrast base. I'm going to use some orc flesh on the orc flesh. It's pretty easy. Remember to charge your brush, but not so much. Never have a paint after the middle of the hair of your brush, and remember to put them directly to be sure it's going to go directly into the recesses. There are some church near my place, so probably you can hear them during I'm going to make the voice of this video. Don't hesitate to ask into the comment section if you have any question, and tell me if you enjoy this tutorial. That's always welcome, and that's always a pleasure to read your comments. As you can see, I am going to put this orc flesh everywhere, and always take care to don't touch the other part, because contrast is very covering and it's always complicated to remove the contrast paint from a zone. So now I'm going to start basing my different laser part. I decided to use some contrast Snakebite for part of my laser and a contrast Gore grunta fur to have some different kind of laser on my minis. If you want to make something more easy and more simple, just use one of these two contrast paints to put on all the laser and closest parts. I always make turn my miniature during I paint, and always try to cover all one part and going on another one, and step by step I will be sure to don't forget some few parts. That's happened. You can always forget some part and come back on, but yeah, if you can, don't forget. That's always better to have some gain of time. Now with some Gore grunta fur, I come back on the different kind of laser on the miniatures, and that's going to give me more visibility on the miniatures. As you can see, it's really easy to apply the contrast paint, and it's a real pleasure for me to use this contrast paint to push all my base color. Now with some Space Wolf Gray, I continue on some few metal parts. for me, using Space Wolf Gray to do my non-metallic metal part is really interesting, because it's going to give some kind of blue color inside my non-metallic metal, and it's going to make a more steel NMM effect, and that's work for me. And I'm going to use, in the same way, to have a better visibility, the Basilicanum Gray on some different part of non-metallic metal, just to create some distinction between two different kind of non-metallic metal color on my miniatures. The Stormboyz is pretty cool to play because it's really funny, and I think we are going to see a lot of Stormboyz on the battlefield. For myself, I think I paint probably 15 different Stormboyz just to play with. So now, with some Basilicanum Gray, as I explained to you, I'm going to apply on all different parts of non-metallic, and for that's going to create some distinction. For example, on the axe, on the target you have, on the ace, and some few parts, we are going to create a clear distinction and a better visibility on my miniatures. Tomorrow I will send a new tutorial so you can see how I improve the level of these miniatures, and that will be available for my boss on Patreon, so don't hesitate to come and support me to have access to more tutorial and a special private group you can share with me your paint. So now I come back with my airbrush, and with a few white, I'm going to push again my highlight on some few parts. If you don't have any airbrush, don't hesitate to, don't take care about this part, go directly to the next part with your brush and directly make the next step. That will work too. So as you can see, I focus on some points where I'm going to take the more light, and step by step I'm going to push again my highlight on these few points. So now I come back with some Flesh 2 from Pro Color with my airbrush, and I'm going to push again my highlight, but only this time on the closest part, the bands, the different elements. I think more and more to do some Twitch painting session, so tell me on the comment if you are interested by that kind of session, and that's always welcome to have your feedback about my tutorial. As you can see with my airbrush, I try to focus on some few points of light, not so much, and I don't. We always need to see the previous step to have a better effect. And now I'm going to use the green from Pro Color and Flesh 2 from Pro Color to push my color on the flesh. As you can see, once again, I focus on some few parts, some few points of highlight, and that's enough. And now I come back with my brush and just pushing my highlights on every edges of the pants and everywhere, just to be sure I'm going to have a very strong highlight on these few parts. That's going to be really more easy to read the miniatures because you have a better visibility by pushing your highlights and your lining like that. I'm going to make the same things just by adding a little bit of white into my flesh too, to pushing a little bit more my highlight.
Remember, you have the timeline it takes me. It's around 5 minutes for the previous step and now 10 minutes for this one. And with white, I'm going to pushing highlight on every edges to have a very strong non-metallic metal effect. As you can see, just about lining and pushing your color. I make a whole video about the dilution, once again only available for the moment for my boss on Patreon, to see how to have the consistency of milk with your color so you can push it and have and give a direction to your color. Remember to dilute a lot your paint, but by the way, don't have a lot of paint on your brush. The quantity is a very important element when you try to make your transition on the miniatures. If you have any kind of idea for the next tutorial, don't hesitate to submit in the comment. By the way, you can see directly on the planning what will be the next tutorial, and the next painting live session will be on some few orc for all the months of Orktober. This step is pretty long to do, but it's really interesting because it's this moment you can see more easily all the work you already done on the miniatures, and that's a very important element for me. And now with the flesh, I'm going to continue pushing a little bit my highlight on the orc flesh by using some Moot Green, and after that I'm going to mix to put a point of white into the Moot Green to pushing my highlight on the flesh. As you can see, I reach a very small and small surfaces, and always focus step by step on a smaller and smaller surfaces. Now by adding, as I explained, a few white color, I'm going to put on a few points this white, and I'm going to create my transition between my previous color and this one. As you can see, sometimes I just tap my color to have more intensity, and that's a really good exercise to have a nice effect on all the miniatures. I continue on the detail and some shadow. As you can see, with some black, I'm going to pushing directly some surfaces to create my my shadow, and I'm going to make some lining to clean and to make some clear separation between the different elements of my miniatures. This will be some of the last step. I'm going to pushing more yellow color everywhere, and for that I'm going to base with some Japanese uniform directly from Prince Auguste, and adding step by step more gold yellow from Prince Auguste 2 to pushing my highlights on this yellow part. Once again, always remember to let's see the previous step and with the yellow is not very covering color, so don't dilute too much, and you can push your yellow in some few direction just to have some nice transition. That's few details in yellow. It's going to give more light and more color to my miniatures, and that will be the perfect way to finish these miniatures. And for the last step, I'm going to come back with some black and just pushing some line of black on the yellow pipe, so that's going to create a nice effect. And that will be the last step for us. So I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. Don't hesitate to tell me in the comments your feedback. Don't hesitate, by the way, to subscribe to the channel and to support me on Patreon so you can have access to the next tutorial how to improve these miniatures. And this is the miniatures I paint today, and I'm going to show you the miniatures when I push a little bit more the level by adding something like no more than 1 hour on the minis, so you can see the result is this one. So don't hesitate, and I really hope you enjoy, and see you soon for the next tutorial. Bye bye.